Hello guys, welcome all of you to today's Farmcast. Today also we'll discuss 5 drugs of choice, um, one class of monoclonal antibodies and a few questions or doubts asked by the students. So let us straight away begin with our drugs of choice. So the first one guys is OCD for today, or obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, as all of you know guys, for most of the neurotic disorders, right, drug of choice are SSRIs, and so is the case with OCD as well. For OCD, drug of choice are SSRIs like fluoxetine are the drug of choice for OCD. But remember, there is always a component of anxiety in OCD, right? And SSRIs, they themselves cause anxiety as a side effect. Now, that is the reason why, to kill this anxiety, we never start SSRIs as a lone class of drug. We always add a benzodiazepine at least for 1 month or 1.5 months until the anxiolytic effect of SSRIs will kick in, because SSRIs, they cause anxiety in the beginning for 4 weeks to 6 weeks. After that, they have anxiolytic effect. Moving on to the second disorder, guys, it is onchocerciasis. And onchocerciasis or onchocerca volvulus, the drug of choice is ivermectin, right? Ivermectin is the drug of choice, anti-helminthic of choice. It has been asked a couple of times. Right, so ivermectin, remember there are 2 cases where they're drug of choice. One is onchocerciasis and second one is strongyloids. Even in strongyloids, ivermectin is the drug of choice. Moving on to the third disorder, opioid toxicity. Guys, remember opioid toxicity, the preferred opioid antagonist is the shortest acting and parenteral one, that is naloxone. So naloxone is the drug of choice for opioid toxicity. One thing they might ask you, naloxone can reverse all effects of opioids except. So remember, naloxone can reverse all the effects, right? Like whatever, like respiratory depression and other effects can be reversed except sedation. Sedation can never be reversed by naloxone. Moving on to next one is a drug toxicity. It is oral 10A inhibitor toxicity. So guys, you remember oral 10A inhibitors like apixaban, rivaroxaban, edoxaban. So when we have toxicity of these drugs, then your drug of choice is an inhibitor of oral 10A, that is andexanet alpha. And remember, andexanet alpha, right? It can reverse the toxicity. And why we need the most these antagonists or this antidote here, because you know this is one of the class oral 10A inhibitors where we do not do coagulation monitoring, right? We do not monitor anything like PTA, PTTI, nothing is monitored. So here, if there is a bleeding, there will be all of a sudden bleeding. You won't get any clue. So you better be prepared with this andexanet alpha, right? And guys, the last disorder for today is hypotension. Which hypotension? Orthostatic or postural hypotension. Now guys, remember orthostatic postural hypotension, the drug of choice is an alpha-1 agonist called as midodrine. So midodrine is the drug of choice for orthostatic or postural hypotension. It has been asked once in JIPMA. And apart from alpha-1 agonist, we can also use fludrocortisone. So you might be thinking how fludrocortisone is going to help in postural hypotension. Being a mineralocorticoid, it will cause retention of sodium and water, increase plasma volume, and thus increase the cardiac output. That is how it will be able to decrease postural hypotension. Right guys, so that's all in this section of drug of choice today. Now coming on to the second section of Farmcast, where I discuss nowadays a class of monoclonal antibodies. So today I'll discuss a class of monoclonal antibodies related to interleukin 5. Right, so interleukin 5 inhibitor or anti-interleukin 5 monoclonal antibody, that is reslizumab, 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 or anti-interleukin 5 receptor monoclonal antibody, that is benralizumab, BENRALIZUMAB. So reslizumab, benralizumab. Now these 2 drugs, they are used for treatment of severe eosinophilic asthma, right? Why? The reason being, remember guys, interleukin 5 is crucial for survival of eosinophils. I block it, eosinophils, they undergo apoptosis. So these are recent drugs in bronchial asthma, reslizumab and benralizumab. Racilizumab, blocker of interleukin 5, benralizumab, blocker of interleukin 5 receptor, right? So that's all in this section of drugs for today. Now let's guys have a look at the doubts that you guys have asked. Alright, so coming to the first doubt, it has been asked by Richa Sharma, and Richa Sharma is asking, sir, even if someone is not targeting this November INI CT exam, should they still give the exam? Why she's asking? Because as bad results can break your confidence. Alright, Richa, I've told this earlier as you, right? What I did when I was preparing is I had barely finished my course before the AIMS exam, 20 days before the AIMS exam, and one thing I could have done is I could have tried to revise something in these 20 days and give an attempt for AIMS, or I could have just kept the larger picture, the AIPG or NEET exam, and revise according to that and then give the AIMS exam. So that is what I exactly did, because my main focus was on the NEET exam or AIPG, and then I did go for the AIMS exam, because do not forget, you get a hands-on practice on how an exam looks like, an online exams. So that practice is very important, right? So you might not score well, right? So even when I gave that exam in my AIMS exam, I could not even qualify, because I knew I won't get a rank. But I thought I will at least get 50%, I'll qualify. It would act like some kind of a booster for me, right? But that did not happen, and I was depressed for one day. Then, I could have got depressed and not done anything, but then I realized what is the reason why I could not qualify. The very big reason was I had not completed even one revision of my notes, right? So essentially whatever I had studied 2 to 3 months back, everything had evaporated. So once I started revising, right, everything they started to fall in place. So I would advise Richa, please go and give the INI CT exam, take hands-on experience, right? You do not get through, nothing to worry about, because this INI CT exam, AIMS, JIPMA, PGI and NEET exam, they are different ball game altogether. Alright, coming to the next doubt, it has been asked by Nishant Tangadi. Sir, I want to ask about the time management in grand test. Clinical questions have been asked and they are vast. How to go for time allocation for each section ABC, and how much time should be there to review? See, Nishant, this is precisely why you need to give grand test, right? By giving grand test, you need to make a plan and you need to execute that plan in grand test, and you see some flaws in that, there are some drawbacks, there are some shortcomings, you need to rework on that and again go and reapply on the next grand test. Again something is there, you come back, re-strategize. So that is why you keep on giving grand tests, so that you can make a strategy for yourself. How are you gonna appear on the last day in the exam, right? So it's all about a matter of practice, right? How much time you need to give, it depends on the merit of the question, because every time the question papers are different. Sometimes they're one-liner, sometimes they're lengthy paper. So there would always be a roadblock, and you cannot go with a premeditated notion into the exam that how the question paper would be. But nevertheless, whatever they ask, you should be prepared for that, right? So you just need to practice more and more grand tests. So right, in these last 3 months, give at least 2 grand tests every month, and try to make a strategy, formulate how you're gonna give your exam on the last day, right? So I cannot tell you exactly how much time to each section you should give. There is no rule of thumb, right? There is no thumb rule. Coming to the next doubt, Aryesh Sharma has asked, sir, I just completed my syllabus and I'm aiming for NEET. I want to do 3 repeat revisions till then, with around 75 days left. How many days should I keep for each revision? Alright, so see, if you have not yet started any revision and there are only 75 days, then I suggest that you can do a mega revision of 50 to 55 days, then a mini revision of 15 to 20 days, and then a micro revision of 5 to 10 days. So in this micro revision of 5 to 10 days, you just need to focus on those subjects which you are weaker at, those subjects which are volatile, focus on images, right? So you need to give a finishing touch to those important things in these last 5 to 10 days. So I guess that is how you should revise and try to squeeze the information as much as possible. Alright, Nikhil Jain has asked, Sir, I'm using MeroQBank. Is it sufficient for preparation, or should I go for other sources too? See, Nikhil, you need to understand that the biggest limiting factor that we have is time, and you don't have time to hop from one source to another source. So whatever source you choose, you stick to that particular source, right? And it is more than enough. It is more than enough. And MeroQBank, especially, is curated in such a way that it tries to cover almost everything and whatever you require, right? So the first thing, guys, I'd like to tell you that whatever source you choose, right, is a QBank or a subject or a faculty, then stick to that faculty or subject or QBank or notes, right? Believe in that source and move ahead. Alright, so Aduri Tharun Teja has asked, so there is a pharmacology doubt. Antihypertensive drug causing impotence is. See, antihypertensive drug, most of them, they can cause impotence. Maximum impotence is caused by thiazides, followed by beta blockers. Right? This does not mean others cannot cause. Clonidine can cause, alpha blockers can cause, all of them can cause. But it is maximum risk is with thiazides, followed by beta blockers. Coming to the next doubt, Mandar Dabade has asked, Sir, I am in my revision phase. I'm very much productive during morning hours, but then after 12 o'clock afternoon, I'm slowing up with completion of target, which is affecting my revision. So what should I do? See, this is the reason why precisely I previously told you how to make a schedule for a day. So when you make a schedule for a day, you need to divide the day into two halves, right? First half and second half. And I've told you that the second half would be less productive because you tend to get tired in the second half, and that is the reason why I have asked you to make a timetable where you combine two subjects for one day. One is your strong subject, second one is your weak subject, right? And preferably one pre-paraclinical and one clinical. So one which you are weak at, one which you are strong at. So let us say, for example, I am weak at pharmacology, I am strong at obs gynae, which is also a clinical subject. So I begin my day with pharmacology because I'm fresh and I'm raring to go at the subject. And by the second half, when I'm tired, when I'm not much interested to study, then the subject which I'm strong at and which I'm interested more in is a clinical subject, obs gynae, and I'll go for the kill. So eventually, guys, that is how you have to do some smart work to extract more out of you. You're the same person, right? You're the same person, but you have to do some tricks to make yourself work harder, right? Alright, guys, so coming to the next doubt, Ritvik Patnaik, sir, I'm a pre-final year student and I was watching some surgery and ENT videos, but college announced that November 2nd there will be second professional exam, so now I have to study patho, micro and pharma. So what to do now? See, you have to go step by step, right? You cannot just jump. So I guess you should now focus on for exams as well, right? You cannot just keep on studying the clinical subjects without getting through the second year exam. So second professional exam is important, guys. And I guess if you have completed all these subjects, it would be a cakewalk for you. So just in these days, start revising, and it is important to score good in your exams as well. That gives a positive vibe, right? So these things will keep on moving on, and don't try to run too much ahead of yourself, guys. Try to enjoy life also, right? You are second year, third year students. Study also, enjoy your life, so watch movies, shows, etc., right? So all these are important part of life, because let me tell you something, this time will never come back, and once you are through your MBBS, then PG, then you get married, and then you'll be on a track that has no U-turn. You'll be just running and running and running, and you would wish then that had I should have enjoyed a little bit more in those days, right? Alright, guys, next doubt is a doubt of pharmacology. Sir, is malignant hyperthermia and NMS same? No, both are not same. Both are totally different. Malignant hyperthermia is caused by mostly anesthetic agents, right? And neuroleptic malignant syndrome is caused by antipsychotics, mostly typical antipsychotics, and both are not synonymous, both are different, but the drug of choice is same, that is dantrolene, because the presentation is quite similar with both, right? All right, and all right, so last question by Syed Sakleen, sir, what is your second favorite branch? Well, see, my second favorite branch, if you'll ask me theoretically, then it is Obs Gynae. Theoretically, I liked Obs Gynae too much. But on the first day of my internship, not internship per se, but first day of my gynae posting, right, I realized that I would like to do anything in this world, but not Obs Gynae. So theoretically, it's a very good subject. I like the theoretical part, but practically, I didn't like it. So theoretically, yes, Obs Gynae, I like second after pharma. But if I would not have gone for pharmacology, then definitely I would have gone for radiology, right? I was getting DMRD. I was not getting MD radiology in my rank, but I was getting diploma in radiology at some places. But again, guys, it was not my cup of tea. I wanted to do pharmacology, and going for radiology would also have been a disaster for me, because I would not have been able to love that subject, nurture that subject that much as I have done for pharmacology. And at the end of the day, if you would ask me, right, not going into the materialistic yardstick or etc. or fame, right, like I'm a famous doctor, clinician around. No, I'm not, right? So one thing, if you would ask me that what did you achieve by taking pharmacology, guys, the one thing that I've achieved is I'm happy. I'm always happy with my work, no matter what happens, right? No matter what happens, and that's what counts. So I always tell you guys to pick up your branch, right, quite wisely, because right, you pick up a partner and you take so much care into picking up a partner, a life partner, and believe me, you should be twice more careful while picking up a branch. Alright guys, so that's all for today. If you have any such kind of doubts, etc., right, concerns with your preparation, you can always let me know in the comment box. I'll be more than happy to incorporate those in the next Pharmcast. So take care, bye-bye. This was Dr. Ranjan with you.